Economic inequality is a pressing issue across the global south, and Africa is at the forefront of addressing these challenges. With some of the highest poverty rates globally, Africa faces significant hurdles but also holds immense potential for growth. As the continent seeks to transform its future, it is also reshaping its role within the global south, a key player in challenging global inequalities. Africa's development has been shaped by a complex history of colonization, economic exploitation, and underinvestment in critical infrastructure. However, African nations are leveraging their resources and partnerships to create a more equitable future. These efforts extend beyond national borders, with Africa becoming a more prominent force in the Global South movement to address inequalities on a global scale. A significant focus for African nations is infrastructure development, essential for reducing inequality and driving economic growth. Across the continent, inadequate infrastructure, including poor roads, unreliable electricity, and limited digital connectivity, exacerbates social disparities. This lack of infrastructure limits access to markets, education, healthcare, and job opportunities, particularly in rural areas. Improving infrastructure is vital for creating a foundation for long-term growth and reducing inequality. African countries are making strides to address these challenges through initiatives like the African Union's Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa, PIDA. PIDA promotes cross-border projects that enhance connectivity and economic integration across the continent. These efforts are about building not just physical infrastructure, but also a more connected and prosperous Africa that can compete globally. Partnerships with other nations in the global south are critical to Africa's infrastructure development. Emerging economies, particularly through frameworks like BRICS, are increasingly investing in African projects. The New Development Bank, NDB, for instance, has financed several African infrastructure projects, offering more flexible loan terms than traditional financial institutions. These investments are key to Africa's strategy of reducing dependency on Western aid and fostering self-sustaining growth. However, infrastructure is only part of the solution to inequality in Africa. Social development programs focusing on education, healthcare, and poverty reduction are also central to these efforts. In Rwanda, for example, nationwide healthcare programs have significantly improved access to medical services, especially for low-income populations. Prioritizing universal healthcare is helping to reduce health disparities and improve overall well-being. Education is another critical area where African countries are making progress in reducing inequality. In Kenya, the introduction of free primary education has been transformative. Ensuring that children from all socioeconomic backgrounds can attend school addresses one of the root causes of poverty. Education is one of the most effective tools for breaking the cycle of inequality, and investments in this sector are essential for building a more equitable society. South Africa, as one of Africa's largest economies, plays a leading role in efforts to reduce inequality on the continent and globally. The country has been a strong advocate for African interests within BRICS, pushing for more investment in African development. South Africa's position in this coalition of emerging economies allows it to bring African perspectives to global discussions on inequality and development. Regional cooperation is also playing an increasingly important role in Africa's development strategy. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, is one of the most ambitious initiatives in this regard. By creating the largest free trade area in the world, AfCFTA aims to boost intra-African trade, create jobs, and reduce poverty. The agreement helps African nations build stronger economies by reducing trade barriers and encouraging the development of regional value chains. This is a crucial step in ensuring that the benefits of trade are shared more equitably among African countries, reducing dependence on external markets. Empowering women and marginalized communities is another key component of Africa's strategy to reduce inequality. Gender inequality remains a significant challenge across the continent, but progress is being made. Ethiopia, for instance, has introduced policies to empower women economically and socially. Improving women's access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities is essential for closing the gender gap and fostering more inclusive growth. However, Africa still faces significant challenges in its fight against inequality. Economic disparities between and within African countries remain a major obstacle. Climate change also disproportionately affects poorer communities, threatening to reverse progress in poverty, alleviation, and development. Moreover, while partnerships with other global South nations are crucial, Africa must navigate these relationships carefully to ensure they do not replicate the exploitative dynamics of past international engagements. Ultimately, Africa's efforts to reduce inequality within the global South are about creating sustainable, inclusive growth that benefits all its people. By investing in infrastructure, social development, and regional cooperation, African nations are positioning themselves as key players in the global fight against inequality. The continent's progress in these areas will be critical not only for its own future, but also for the broader efforts of the global South to create a more balanced and equitable world order.